Hello and welcome to another painting video. In this video, I'll be painting a piece of old school 40k terrain. I've had this piece of terrain in my backlog for over 10 years now, and because I'm back in a 40k mood and playing weekly games, it's time to get this painted. For this tutorial, I'm using the airbrush quite heavily. That can be done by brush, but an airbrush is such a time saver. Let's begin, shall we? After a good dusting, I sprayed the terrain with black primer. This actually took quite some time, and I probably should have used a rattle can for this, if I had one. You'll notice some small bits have come off, but since it's a dilapidated building, that doesn't really matter. I then spray Ushabti Bone on the outside of the building. I did spray in an angle to get a subtle gradient shadow going. I did about 3 passes and made sure some parts were brighter than others. From the bottom, I spray Garaghak's sewer to dirty up the area of the ruins that is touching the ground. I also sprayed on all the bottom parts of all the sections. This will make it look like dirt has settled on these areas. The inside of the structure was painted with Corvus Black. This to brighten the black a little bit. I spray Agrax Earthshade on the entire face of the building. This dirties up the Ushabti Bone nicely. On the inside, I spray Nuln Oil to shade the walkways and walls. It's insane what a quick result you can get with an airbrush when working on big models like this. It already looks pretty good. And because it's a ruin, it's supposed to look dirty and rough. But I'm not done yet, of course. Let's work on the outside building first. I dry brushed Screaming Skull on the entire outside of the building. This makes the myriad of details pop nicely. Next, I sponge Rhinox Hide on the surface of the building. This will be the base for the weathering and makes the building look like it's been struck by debris or fired upon. I sponge Skrag Brown to enhance the weathering even more. And I end with a light sponge of Deathclaw Brown to highlight the weathering, making it pop. It's not just dry brushing that worked really well on large models. Sponging gives some very random looking textures on the model, and it's an easy technique. Just make sure there's very little paint on the sponge. On the inside, I sponged Dawnstone on both the walls and the walkways to create random textures once again. I followed this up with a sponging of Runefang Steel. This will make the walls and pathways read as metal. I put down some big blobs of the texture paint Astrogranite. This to simulate some debris that has accumulated on the walkways. After it's dried, I shade it with Nuln Oil. This will blend it nicely on the walkways. I paint the doors and other small details with Screaming Bell. Did I pick this metallic color because it works really well with the rest? Did I apply color theory here? Well, no, I had this paint for ages and I never really found a good use for it because it's so darn red. But on scenery, it works quite well. I heavily shade the brass with Reikland Fleshshade to add some much needed shadows. I dry brush Gehenna's Gold on the brass. This color complements the Screaming Bell really well. I then sponge Canoptek Alloy on the brass to create some random looking highlights. Luckily, the reddish brass really pops on this building. Glad to finally found a use for these two paints I've never used before. Why did I buy them? Well, you know how it goes. Finally, I have these huge torches. Now let's add some easy and quick lighting. First, I spray the torches with the ink Turquoise blue. I also make sure they hit the surface of the building. Then I blast on some spots of titanium white on the lamp to make it look bright. And we're done. And here we have a piece of 40k terrain that has finally been painted. It's very satisfying to finally have something finished after having it for such a long time. In my next video, I will be painting another building that has been waiting for quite some time, the 40k Bastion. In the meantime, be sure to check out my Instagram, where I post pictures of current projects and behind the scenes stuff. But for now, thanks for watching.